Pittsburgh Steelers fans, what is going on? This is Jeff Hartman, editor of BehindTheSteelCurtain.com, with you for another episode of the Steelers Preview, where we break down everything that's going on with the Pittsburgh Steelers, as well as in the offseason. We break down one specific position. But before we get into all that, joining me as always, my good friend Bryan Anthony Davis. What's going on, Bryan?
I am your very good friend. That makes me feel good. Thank you, Jeff. Now I don't have to have the Billy Madison wall over in the corner with like people to kill, and now I can like cross you off of that.
You putting lipstick on while you do with ELO playing in the background.
I just made my kids watch. Not made my kids. I let my kids watch that the other day. I'm watching this. I'm like, oh, this is this is weird.
Yeah. There's some weird parts. Well, good to have you with us, my good friend Dave, Deputy Dave Schofield. What's going on?
Not too much, just holding it down, waiting for the breaking news to happen now, because it's always happening during our podcast the last couple of nights. So the Steelers haven't made much of a splash today, so we're going to hear it now.
Dave, you're key. You kill me, man. I re-listened to all of our shows, like the Q&A with Tony and Brian, your show, the tech. Every time we have the preview, I'm like, what's going on, Dave? And like, nothing, I guess. I'm fine. Like, man, come on. Let's get excited. For once, there's news.
It's great. I get to be home all the time. Oh, wait, I'm always home anyway.
Exactly.
I'm just excited about Steelers stuff. I mean,
that's right.
How
there's
excited
something to talk about
tonight when I got to. Well, I'm just saying, last night I got to sit there and just hear numbers and speak numbers and everything about numbers. With Ian being on. So how am I supposed to get excited about this?
That was tough. I got to be honest. I told Dave before we went on the air, I was like, Dave, you should probably just go on for me, because I said it on the show last night. I know you would have. But for me, it's like, I'm that guy that I don't want to hear about the numbers. Just tell me who we have and let's talk about football. And that's what we're going to do on this show. We're going to talk about football. And the question that was posed in the title of this episode is very tough to say right now, because we haven't even been a week into free agency. But I would say, guys, would you agree or disagree? The first wave is done. Yes? The first wave of free agency is done. Yeah, because you still have some names out there. And we ran that article on BehindTheSteelCurtain.com this afternoon about the best players left, like the best of what's around. And so I'm kind of figuring out, I think the first wave is done. So let's say after the first wave of free agency, looking at players lost, players gained, do you feel that the Steelers roster is improved at all? Now, this is going to change. We know they're going to bring in probably a couple other players, but has their roster gotten better or gotten worse? Let's start with you, Brian. What do you think?
I have to say it's gotten worse, because not every hole has been filled. So, I can't really now. I don't think another week from now I'll be saying that, but it's just not over enough for me to have to say, yeah, it's completely improved. You have improvement at one position, but you've lost on the offensive line, and it's not clear whether those guys are officially coming back. That's been tendered. One guy's coming back, and that's Bud Dupree, because he was franchise tagged. He should be coming back unless they pull some shenanigans and do something like a trade there. But with everything, I'm saying right now I'm still in a holding pattern, but I think the arrow is pointing up.
Yeah. Okay, Dave, what are your thoughts before I give you mine?
Okay, well, they've lost two starters. Correct? One to retirement, one to free agency. Unless, I don't know, would you consider Mark Barron a starter?
Oh, shit, I was thinking Javon Hargrave. I guess you could say...
That's who they lost to free agency.
Right, no, I know. I'm saying, I guess when you said second Foster, yes, absolutely a starter when he was healthy.
Yeah. And Hargrave was technically your starting nose tackle when you started in base.
And they lost the key reserve.
Yes, and the key reserve. So it's funny, because I don't know that they've improved their roster, but now they're sitting with some calories. I'm going to mess it up to say the wrong thing. Salary cap space. There we go.
I thought you were going to say calories. I was like,
yeah, calorie sap. I've said that several times on the stat.
That's my kind of show. Yeah.
Yeah. So I almost got ahead of myself there. So the thing is that they've made the moves. I mean, especially with last night with Marquise Pouncey, Steelers were under. They were under and okay. And then they add Pouncey to it. So that it's one of those things of, well, then they must maybe have something in mind. So I don't know that their roster is better, but I think their situation is better because they do have a little bit of freedom right now.
I don't think anyone can say right now that their roster is better. And, I'm the one that thought of the headline, but at the same time, I think it's just to create some discussion between the three of us because they, like you said, they lost potentially 3 starters. And so when you lose 3 starters and you're bringing in the only player that you bring in, and let's not count, I'm not counting Bud Dupree as like a free agent signing or they're keeping him even though he was an unrestricted free agent because he never left. But you only bring in a fullback special teams ace. Although he's going to play, he's not going to be a regular on the field, in my opinion. So because of that, and it's only one player, by the way, I'm going to say that there's no way that they've improved their roster yet. But like Brian said, you asked me in a week, next week on this show, and we might be singing a completely different tune because, as Dave said, they have created some salary cap space. Lance says in the live chat that it's about $7.6 million. Is that correct?
That
Dave?
Is incorrect. According to Ian.
Okay,
Ian had it at 11.4.
Woo! They're good. They have not restructured to it or DeCastro though, have they?
They have not.
They could.
Can I just say something? And something I've said a lot. And to correct Dave and Big Brosco, let's rewind a little bit. Let's go back and say, with what money? I told you they will find a way to find money. Omar Khan makes it work.
Wrong. You're still wrong.
See, you
because
guys,
they found $23 million only because there was a new CBA. That was the stipulation. They've made They found $23 million in restructures that they couldn't have done otherwise.
They'll find a way to get things done.
Only because there's a new CBA. If there wasn't, they were screwed because there's $23 million they couldn't have got.
What was the salary cap before the CBA?
No, it's being able to restructure. They couldn't restructure salaries.
I understand that, but they still find a way. If this was any other year and it wasn't a salary cap and they were sitting there, they would have restructured things.
Yes, exactly. And I agreed with you, but I said it all depends on the CBA. If they didn't get the CBA, there's no way they could have made, what's the number I have? Right? Yeah, like over $23 million they've saved in the 6 restructures.
Did they restructure and find a way?
Because of a new CBA.
Hold on. Stop. You guys are both right. That's the thing.
Exactly.
Brian's right. Brian's right because they always find a way. Dave's right because the CBA being signed helped them find a way. You're both right. You're yelling at each other about the same thing. So let's move on and get past it. And my gosh, I feel like I'm talking with my children right now or my students. Anyways, next question for me, for you all is, since we all agree that right now the roster is not better, what scares you, or what do you have any trepidation about? My goodness, they lost a lot here or there, and I'm not sure if they're going to be able to get this through free agency because they're freeing up space for something. We know that, and the NFL draft. So, Dave, I'll start with you this time. What area about this team makes you pause a little bit?
Makes me pause. I don't like the interior offensive line depth.
Just the depth. I mean, for crying out loud, they don't have a starter.
Yeah, that's well. It all depends on how you're going to play it. You have a starter. You have a starter. So I'm more concerned about interior, but it's still across the board, if you know what I mean. Because once you bump Filer down, then that's one less tackle. They did, they did keep Banner for a reason to have. I mean, I don't think anyone, unless. Between Banner and Chooks, both of them aren't going to have to start this year, barring injury. So you're only talking about one of them have to, or neither if Filer stays at tackle and they have another answer at guard. There's a lot of question marks there. How they're going to move it. I like that Filer could go either place, so it gives you some freedom, but you need to do something there.
Okay. J.C. Hassenauer is the backup center now, right? Did I say his name correctly?
Yes.
Does anyone know, either you or Brian, does he have position versatility? Can he play guard as well as center? Does anyone know? I don't know anything about this guy.
All I know is, Brian, do you know any more? I only know him as a center. He wasn't even on the practice squad until partway through the season.
I only remember him as a center, but for some reason, I'm thinking that he has that kind of versatility, but we've only seen him in Pittsburgh as a center in preseason action.
Yeah. Okay. Reed Overand, who is a loyal listener, viewer, he says he did in the AAF. So we'll see. I got to think that that's important for me because, Dave, you bring up a great point about the interior depth along that offensive line. But what about you, Brian? Is there anything about this, how everything's panned out with the players that have left compared to the players that are still here? Any holes in the roster that make you kind of like, that's a red flag?
Chuksa Okorafor scares the living bejesus out of me.
But why? You and Lance are in the same boat here.
Understood that.
I don't understand why. What about him has caused
every time he started, he's played well.
I saw him with false starts. I've seen him with penalties. I just saw him look trepidatious.
Really?
I don't like. I really don't like his game, and that's just my opinion. And I agree with Lance. And I have no problem. I mean, I think he's terrible. I like Zach Banner better at that position as a tackle more than I like Chuksa Okorafor because I don't think Chukes is good. When they signed him, he was not signed him. When they drafted him, he was they threw out the word project, and he plays like a project.
You're right. But let me ask you this, Brian. I'm not disagreeing with you, and I think it should be an open competition for right tackle if they are indeed moving Filer into guard. However, what about Zach Banner's play has made you uber confident in his ability?
I just think he seems like a stronger tackle.
Let's be honest, though. Last season, when he was on the field, how many times did he backpedal?
Rarely.
I don't have an answer.
I'm not mad at you. It's just one of those situations where I feel like I think it's an even match between these two guys because Zach Banner, everyone loved him, and he's a very likable guy, and he's super funny. He did that video around Christmas time where he was downtown Pittsburgh handing out terrible towels and asking, he's a great guy, and he has that moxie
video.
And exactly. That's all awesome.
And that's all great, but whenever he was eligible, I'm doing it on the, if you're not watching live on YouTube, I'm doing the hand sign for an eligible receiver. He was always run block, which is great. I think that his struggles are in pass block.
Yeah.
So we never got to see him do that. Now, Dave, you know more about the line than I do. Am I right or am I far off base here?
No, you were spot on with saying not being able to see him do it. We can't say that he can or can't because we didn't really get much. I mean, there's different types of pass blocking. And the thing is, a lot of times out of that jumbo package, even when they did throw the ball, they're not throwing in a way that it's just we're flat up, dropping back, forming the pocket in order for him to go. You're trying to deceive. So your linemen are even firing off the ball a little bit, trying to do a play action, for the linebackers reading the linemen, seeing if they're dropping back or what they're doing. So you're right. He didn't do much of that, 3-step, 5-step, position to take on the pass rush that you would want out of a tackle.
Now, I think the fact that we're having this debate, Brian, shows that this is an issue. This is an issue in 2020. From what I've gathered, Brian, let me ask you this question. You know the upcoming players better than I do. Dave, if you can chime in as well. Is this not a better tackle group coming up in the draft than guard?
Absolutely.
Oh, it's a phenomenal. And in the front, there's about 4 or 5 first rounders that'll probably go before number 20. If there's if you start,
you might have double-digit tackles. You might have double-digit tackles before you hit an interior lineman in the draft.
Yeah, there is definitely the potential for a run in the first round.
Okay, with that said, everyone, Lance has said it in the live chat. Other people have chimed in the live chat and said, look at offensive guard in the second round for the Steelers' first pick of the draft. I say, if you're going to move Matt Filer to guard and you trust him there, and tackle is the position that you might be able to get someone that's really good, that just is not a top tier tackle, you might be able to look at tackle. And if you have a day one guy that can come in and play right tackle, maybe that's your answer too. This is what these are some of the things we're going to talk about throughout the offseason, but still it's something to think about in regards of looking at the positions that are deep in this upcoming draft class and matching them with what the Steelers need. So it all depends on if Filer is good enough to play guard and be athletic enough to pull there and be able to do everything that's asked of that left guard spot. Can they maybe find a right tackle in the draft that'll potentially push a guy like Zach Banner out off the roster? You never know.
Brad, who sent us a mock draft, and he's working on another one in the live chat, he just said his number is 13 tackles that he has before an interior alignment. Now, but the thing to remember about that is people keep saying, like when a lot of people were projecting Steelers with a tight end, oh, it's such a weak tight end class. You're talking about guys for first round. Steelers don't have a first round pick. That doesn't mean that guys that you could get at 49 aren't good players. How many mock drafts have I seen in doing the mock draft Mondays where the Steelers have their choice at tight end because none of them have been drafted by 49? It doesn't mean that there's not one worthy at 49. I mean, if you go on to, I haven't done it for a couple of weeks. I know Brian and I looked at last year. CBS Sports had all of their players ranked accordingly, and their number, the last time I checked it, their number 49 guy, which would have been to the Steelers, was the guard/center from Wisconsin that I can't say his name. And he was the best interior offensive lineman. It's not even a difficult name. I just can't say it because Brian knows how I am. I mean, I don't know if he's still number 49, but that's just saying is that even in that position, it might be really deep at tackle, but they might take a lot of the tackles. And next thing you know, you get the best guard in the draft, although it is a second round talent. So it's really tough to look at like that. Reed's got it. I can't read.
Yeah, I don't know.
Latest?
Yeah, I can't say it right.
No, that's an odd.
I know it to read it, but I'm not going to pronounce it right.
I don't know. Happy birthday to Brad Jewett, by the way, who I think I saw him say it was his birthday earlier in the live chat. Happy birthday to Brad. He's a longtime listener of the show, good supporter. We appreciate that. Everyone wish him a happy birthday there if you're watching live on YouTube. The position that kind of gives me a little hesitation is now inside linebacker.
That was my next one.
Because I saw someone on Twitter. I'm not sure who it was. It wasn't just like a fan. It was someone that's maybe on the radio or on television in Pittsburgh. And they said, it seemed like Mark Barron was signed almost as like an insurance policy for Devin Bush. And Devin Bush proved he can play. It's okay. So that makes Mark Barron expendable, and they cut him. They save cap space. We get all that. At the same time, I sit there and wonder, well, I hope the second-year linebacker is ready for that. Devin Bush did not play extensive snaps as much in the second half as he did in the first half. Some people thought that was more of a demotion. Mike Tomlin said it was more of him managing his snaps and making sure that he's fresh. It's a longer season than college. All that stuff is very well known. But guys, now with Barron gone and Matakevich gone, you're looking at Ulysses Grant. Gosh, Brian, you did it again.
Ulysses S. Grant.
Ulysses Gilbert. The love child of Ulysses S. Grant and Marcus Gilbert.
Who is a free agent right now.
Yeah, that's right. We don't want him. So Ulysses Gilbert III. Is there another inside linebacker on this roster that is of note?
Yeah.
Who?
Robert Spillane.
Okay. I said of note
on Robert Spillane, but he
was on the 53 last year and game day active just as a special teamers after Gilbert was put on IR. So they're basically somewhat equivalent.
That's a position that's going to need to be addressed, in my opinion. My gosh, you can't Robert Spillane.
Mm-hmm.
No, he's not going to be the answer at depth at both inside linebacker positions. So it's going to be
Tyler Matakevich the answer at depth at inside linebacker.
No, he wasn't. He wasn't. He was not. I couldn't believe he got as much money as he did.
Mark this down. I agree with Dave. That's exactly what I was going to say next.
1911.
When he was in there.
1911 on the recording.
Good gravy when you saw that guy in there.
Mm-hmm.
LJ Fort is the guy that they really did not need to get rid of.
And they could have kept him for so cheap. He was a fraction a fraction of what they paid for Chickalo. And they chose to keep Chickalo. Now, granted, they didn't have a lot of depth at that position at the time over Fort. So, yeah, we kind of wish we could have him back right now.
It's going to be interesting. Now, I wanted to kind of move from this conversation, which, by the way, I have to bring this up. Kaysen writes, says, my girlfriend's hating every second of me listening to all you argue.
And we argue very little, actually.
Yeah, you're actually right. It's always Dave and Brian. It's very rarely me. I'm more the...
I was ready to argue with you today on Twitter, on texting, though.
Who?
You.
Me?
Yeah. We don't want to spoil that. You got to save that for tomorrow night. Save
tomorrow
that for
night.
Lance.
What's tomorrow night? Oh,
save that for Lance.
Okay, yeah.
Are we supposed to agree on everything? Are we supposed to?
That makes for boring. That makes for boring shows, in my opinion.
And everybody thinks that when Dave and I go at it, that we like hate each other, and then we get off, we click off, and we're laughing.
Jeff goes away, and Brian and I keep talking.
It's always my internet connection gets really shoddy. Anyways, so I want to ask Dave. You wrote this article for the website this morning. It ran, and that was about compensatory picks. Because right now you can kind of start that equation, you can kind of piecing the puzzles together. Before we get to where the Steelers sit, Brian, you see teams like the Baltimore Ravens, New England Patriots, they rack up comp picks. I know that it's not in the forefront of a team's thought process, or at least not the Steelers typically, but should it weigh into the factor of, okay, who we're going to lose, who we're going to keep? Should comp picks weigh into that, in your opinion, Brian?
I don't think so. I think that's just, you think about the comp pick when you're trying to figure out around week 8, week 9, week 10, whether you're going to get rid of Dante Moncrief or not. You might look at that, but the moves that you're making now, you're not looking at the future for that. That's just, that's a little extra. That's more incentive to stop the bleeding, that you have something coming next year, but you're planning for 2020, not 21 with a comp pick. Because, in some situations, that's a 6th round comp pick. For some, who is it? The Finney's, what is Finney? A 6th round comp pick. So if you end up with a 6, and that's the guy you get, you're not going to get rid of a quality player, because you're not going to, you're still going to try to keep that quality player, not to just get a 6th round pick later on. So that's kind of the way I'm looking at there. One of the reasons that they also, you look at a team like New England and Baltimore, they make a lot of trades. So when they make a trade, that's not losing a guy, or they're giving up somebody. They're bringing somebody in via trade. So that doesn't affect their comp picks. So Calais Campbell, that's not a free agent coming in. So that doesn't affect that at all whatsoever. So they're getting a guy, but that's not going to keep them from gaining a 6th rounder or a 4th rounder or what have you.
Okay. Dave, you agree or disagree?
I think I agree somewhat for the most part. I think the advantage is there to grab once it presents itself. Meaning the Steelers shouldn't be thinking about the comp pick, but now that Javon Hargrave is gone, that's something that is kind of worth remembering.
That's going to be a 3rd round.
You know what I'm saying? What's that?
My opinion. That's going to be a third. I think that's going to be a 3rd round.
Honestly, it's right on the cusp. It's right on the cusp between being the last 3rd round pick or the top 4th round pick. Most likely over the cap right now has it as a 4th. I'm thinking of it as a 4th because I'd rather undervalue than overvalue. Because with the $13 million a year, if it was 13.5, he'd be up to a 3. So it's really close. So in other words, not only do you want to see Javon Hargrave make that money, you want to see him as a Pro Bowler, because that's going to move that up a little bit.
So why don't you go into where the Steelers are right now, after the first wave of free agency is over, in terms of compensatory picks projections?
Well, bottom line is, and this is something that I wrote in the article about some misconceptions about the comp picks, is it's not about, the biggest thing is net loss players versus net gain players. Because last year when the Eagles first cut LJ Fort, and everyone's like, oh no, that's going to drop our comp pick from a 3rd round to a 5th round. No, it doesn't drop your comp pick in round. it's either third round or no pick. The Steelers had no net loss. So you have to lose more players than what you gain. Once you have that net loss, then you figure out what rounds those are. So the Steelers have a net loss of 4, or not a net loss. They have a loss of 4 and a gain of 1 for a net loss of 3. So their one gain is Derek Watt. Their 3 losses are Javon Hargrave, Sean Davis, Tyler Medikevich, and BJ Finney in that order. Now, Davis is an interesting one. I didn't want to dive too much into this in the article, but Davis, he has a value right now of what he would be comp pick wise. That his could change a ton to where he doesn't even count because his contract is so incentive laden. If he doesn't earn those incentives, or if because it's so many incentives, it makes them easy to cut him, then he's just out of the equation. It doesn't matter. But for right now, Derek Watt is coming in is either a 6th or a 7th round. He's right on the cusp. So I always estimate the worst for the Steelers. So if Watt's a 6, he cancels one of the 6, which would be Finney, and the Steelers would have right now 2 4s and a 6 is what it would be.
And don't forget, if somebody signs Artie Burns, that helps.
Artie Burns, Nick Vannett.
That's right.
Jordan Dangerfield. If any of those 3 go somewhere else. Now, remember, if the Steelers sign them, it just means they didn't lose them. It doesn't hurt against a player gained because they were theirs last year. So that's it. So, the Steelers could go out and sign 2 other free agents, and unless they got a salary that puts them up into the 4th round range, which would mean they're paying somebody, $8 or more $1 million a year, they're not canceling Hargrave, and that's the one that they would end up most likely being able to keep. So it's a very flux situation as players leave and come.
And the thing is that to me, once the NFL made the rule change that these picks can be traded, it made them that much more important. It used to be that if you got a comp pick, that was your pick only, and it stayed at that position no matter what. But now that you can trade these picks, to me, I'm like, well, now there's a little bit more value. Now you can package these picks, these extra 3rds or 4ths, and they become valuable to a lot of teams. So we'll see how that goes, and we'll keep you updated here on Steelers Preview. But one of the things that we do every offseason, go ahead, Dave, you want to say something else?
No, I was just going to say more picks is always good, because I know when I've talked with Flip, he didn't like moving up for Devin Bush last year because he said it was such a deep draft. It was a great draft to move back. But my thing with that is the Steelers had 10 picks. You want to move back and pick up another pick or 2? What are you going to do with 12 picks? Because they had 10 picks, that's the perfect time to move up because you didn't need to draft 10 players. So if you can add, 2 or 3 comp picks along with the 7, or depending on anything else you gain or lose that you have, that just allows you to package stuff and make a move.
And that gives us 2 extra guys come July to just completely decipher, to lose them forever come September.
Yeah. All right. Good answer. We'll keep you up to date on that. But something else we do on the Steelers Preview Show every week is we diagnose and break down one specific position. And I figured, with all the excitement around this player, why don't we preview the fullbacks today? Is there any other fullback on the roster currently?
No.
Perfect. Yes, that's what I was hoping for. So with that, guys, Brian, we'll start with you. What was your reaction when the Steelers did 2 things? 1, sign Derek Watt. 2, release Roosevelt Nix. They obviously went hand in hand, but what were your thoughts when this all went down?
Hated to see Rosie go, one of my favorite players. But it's a business, and obviously they did not feel that he was healing well enough. They got rid of him. You bring in somebody that we know from a class family because we have one of the Watts happening going on in Pittsburgh now, as you have 2 Watt players. I like this guy, but I also liked him from what I saw of him when he was playing for San Diego / Los Angeles. I just think he is more of a traditional fullback. He's a good special team player. He's could help that running game as well. And I like the fact that there's another Watt in there too, because I kind of like the dynamic of having those guys there. And hey, it beats having two Edmonds.
Which they still do
for now.
For now, Dave, what were your thoughts when the Derek Watt signing went down?
I'm going to throw you the same number I threw out on StatGeek, 64, and that is 4 years in the NFL, 16 games, for 64 total. He's never missed a game, and although Rosie's missed one here or there before this past year is really what it comes down to. And I mean, he had just been made special teams captain and didn't even really get to enjoy that. And then we know he asked for his release. You don't know exactly the timing of it. Was it before the Watt signing? Was it after? I'm assuming it was after, because I don't know why he'd want to go anywhere if he was the only fullback. But I'm sad to see Rosie go, but I actually, it's people talked about, Derek Watt to the Steelers weeks ago. And I didn't really think anything of it because I'm like, I don't know that they'll do that for a fullback when they don't have any money. Then they sign a new CBA. They can restructure deals as we had talked about. And, their free agent signing is less per year than anybody that they've lost so far. Like Finney's the lowest contract that they've lost so far at $4 million a year. And Watts comes in at 3.25 and only just barely over a $2 million cap hit this year. So it's when the Steelers signed Steven Nelson last year, how many people knew that name? How many Steeler fans knew that name?
I didn't, I'll be honest.
Few, very few. I mean, some of us, did or didn't know that name. But guess what? Almost everybody knew Derek Watt. So it's something that did excite the fan base, but I don't know. Him and Tyler Medikevich were tied for special teams tackles last year. So he fills that void as a special teamer, and you have a fullback that maybe they're wanting to do something different with it this year. It's fun. It's something good to talk about. We'll see if it really I don't know that the move translates to any more victories on the field.
Right. No, and it's a fullback, but my opinion, you can go and listen to our special Homer and Hater show that went after the standard is a standard last night. Myself and Lance went back and forth. Lance is still in the live chat spouting off about it. He doesn't like the pickup.
I'm pretty sure the answer was 16, Lance.
How many?
Sorry.
Okay. Anyways, I just looked at this pickup and said, how might the Steelers utilize him in the offense in 2020? So what does maybe Derek Watt bring to the table in an offensive standpoint that maybe Roosevelt Nix never did? So, for instance, one of the things, which, by the way, I wanted to mention this, the NFL is giving away Game Pass for free right now until, I think, which, by the way, that could be an article, Dave. They're giving it away for free right now, I think until like May 31st. If you've never experienced Game Pass, go on. You can create your own account and you can watch any game film from I don't know how many years it goes back, but you can watch the all 22 footage. Go back and look for yourself. This is the time to create your own opinion of someone like Derek Watt, because you can go back and look at the LA Chargers from last season. You can go back to even when they were in San Diego and say, what does he do well? What does he not do well? What did they ask him to do compared to what the Steelers might ask him to do? Now, that's my question here. Roosevelt Nix was not used that often last year because he was hurt. In 2018, I felt that they used him more, and James Conner had a really good year. I could be wrong. Maybe it's just my perception. Could Derek Watt be athletic enough to be that fullback that's in the I formation and they kind of move him out to the edge? You see that happen a lot with tight ends in the NFL today. They want the single back look. They want the extra tight end, but they don't want to, like you always said, Dave, Zach Banner's on the field. What are they going to do? They're going to run the ball. So they have some options. I know he's not necessarily known for his hands. I don't know if he can't catch, though. Maybe they didn't ask him to catch. So, Brian, what are your thoughts on that in terms of Watt in the offense? What might they be able to do, with him that maybe they didn't do with Nix in the past?
I don't know his catching numbers, but from what I understand, that he is a pretty good he's pretty good receiver out of the backfield. Dave could probably give us those numbers, but let me just throw this in real quick. If you remember the Super Bowl, guy like Kyle Juszczyk, and we've known of this guy for a while because he played in Baltimore and he's done well with San Francisco. He was very valuable in that Super Bowl because they used him quite a bit as a pass catching threat We've seen Rosie a couple times, once or twice over the last couple of years, have a receiving touchdown. I remember that huge Baltimore game right after Shazier went down. He had a huge touchdown in that game. So it's something that, geez, really. That just came out of the corner of my eye. Good Lord. There should be a tracker every week, whether I'm smiling or not, because if I'm not smiling and I'm concentrating, and then like, oh, Bad's in a bad mood, Bad's sad, blah, blah, blah. No. No, I did not have a colonoscopy. Good Lord. Yeah. Anyways,
I was looking at numbers. I hadn't seen it.
He's a good receiver. I mean, I think he opens up more of a traditional running game for this team that they didn't have last year because they had Roosevelt Nix on the pine because he was hurt and they had nobody to plug in. The closest thing they had was Sutton.
Do you want
Smith.
the numbers?
Yeah.
Yeah. Good. The last year was his worst receiving year because he had 3 receptions on 5 targets, meaning on actual receptions. For his career, it's 10 receptions on 13 targets. So, a catch rate of over 75%. But the one thing that they do with him that they didn't never do with Nix is he had 7 rushes last year. He only played 122 offensive snaps in I almost said San Diego, but I caught myself in Los Angeles or for Los Angeles. So 122 offensive snaps, but he was either targeted or given the ball 12 times. That's, 10% of the time being on the field, actually having the ball in his direction. That's way more than we ever saw with Roosevelt Nix. Now, but the question is, that's just how they used him. The question is, how will the Steelers use him? Do they have a different plan with fullback, or was it just a happy signing?
That we don't have the answer to that yet, unfortunately. But I think that he gives them more versatility at the position. And I said last night on our show, in my opinion, this signing kills 2 birds with 1 stone. You lose Tyler Matakevich, who is your special teams ace. Roosevelt Nix was a fullback that was always hurt. You get a fullback and a special teams ace with 1 guy. You're paying him less than you paid those 2 guys. So go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, that was going to be my one thing. What would you have rather had? Tyler Matakevich for $4.5 million a season, or Derek Watt for $3.25 for the season? So I'd say sign me up for that.
And is this a move down the road to give TJ extra incentive to stick around?
We teased that on Stat Geek. I mean, you can think about it. I don't know if it really would,
But you know what? I mean, are you building something? And, of course, everybody threw out now, hey, let's go get JJ. That's not going to happen. It would be awesome to think about. Yeah. We'd really have Watts happening. But, is that something that those guys value sticking around? And it seems like a guy like TJ is going to want to stay here anyways. So, but is that in the back of their mind? Hey, we'll bring this guy in as well.
I'm not saying it happened. I'm not saying it could, but everyone knows if Ben likes you, you're on the team. If Ben wants you on the team, you're on the team. Who is about to become, if not already, just not in salary yet, the Ben Roethlisberger of the defense?
Absolutely.
TJ Watt.
TJ Watt, yeah.
I'll be honest with you. If TJ Watt says, I want my brother on the team, I don't know that happened, but I'm just saying, if he did, then if I was the Steelers, I'd think about it.
Well,
just like they think about whatever Ben wants.
How often does an NFL player get to actually play with their biological brother on the same team? I know it's happened before. Obviously, the Edmond brothers are on the Steelers, and I know it's happened prior to them, but it's rare.
Seattle right now.
It's rare, and I think it's special for some of these guys. So loyalty is going to be something we bring up in the after party, so make sure you check us out there. But we're not finished with this show yet. I want to do you guys have trivia?
Oh, I got good stuff.
Oh, good. All right, hold on. Let me put on
I got 2 different ones if you want.
The imaginary dunce cap is going on as I'm the idiot of the group. So why don't we go ahead, Dave, and fire. Brian, do you have some just so I know?
Yeah, I have a small one. I'm kicking around in my head.
He's talking about trivia, Brian.
Yeah.
If it were the after party,
Yes, that is what she said, guys.
I'll cheer up, Brian, for crying out loud. Goodness gracious.
That colonoscopy was hours ago.
All right, Dave, go ahead.
I'm sorry. All right. I'll do the fun one first. Okay. This is in honor of Ramon Foster. Okay. Ramon Foster played how many seasons for the Pittsburgh Steelers?
2009. So
Jeff is correct.
13.
Brian's going to get it in
12?
2009 to 2019. That's 11.
Yeah, 11.
Yeah, well, no, you said the right number. Brian said the right number of when he started. Jeff said the right number of how many seasons.
Yeah,
that was 11 seasons. Ramon Foster was undrafted. Can you name the other 4 Steelers that played more seasons who were undrafted?
Say that again.
Who were the other 4 Steelers who played more seasons than for the Steelers than Ramon Foster, and they were undrafted? Some of these are easy.
I can give you 2 off the top of my head.
Okay.
I'll give you the hard one first. Greg Warren.
Greg Warren, that is one. Very good.
And then Donnie Shell.
Seasons. And Donnie Shell played 14 seasons.
James Harrison.
James Harrison also played 14 seasons. And this is the difficult one.
Sometimes I get those 7th round, 6th and 7th round guys mixed up.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Shoot.
I'm thinking I'm probably
this is it modern era or older?
No, older. Not 40s or something, but
so it's like he started Dick Shiner's era.
Shit. There is a guy named Dick Shiner.
I'm pretty sure he played in the Super Bowl era. He, 4 Super Bowls.
I'm gonna go with Dwayne Woodruff.
It was not Dwayne Woodruff. I don't know how many seasons he played if he's on this list. Because I was looking at undrafted guys. You ready for it?
No, give us a position. Okay. Give us an offense or defense.
I'll give you the position. Okay, well, give me just a second. He was a guard.
Sam Davis.
No clue.
That is correct.
May he rest in peace.
Wow.
That would be Sam Davis. He played 13 seasons for the Steelers from 1967 to 1979, and he was undrafted.
Number 57.
So,
very good.
Very good. Now, do you want my other one?
Yes.
You inspired this one, Jeff, because we were talking about where Arizona cut not Arizona. It was the 49ers cut one of their offensive linemen. And I said, "Oh, that's interesting. It wouldn't count towards the comp and things like that." And Jeff's like, "Yeah, I could see that." I'm like, "Oh, wait, he's like 31. That's not the kind of moves the Steelers make." And Jeff brought up a certain Steeler that they brought in later in his career that then played a long time, and you were shocked how long he actually played in Pittsburgh.
Yes.
Who was that, Jeff?
Jeff Hardings.
Yes, that he played 6 seasons for the Steelers after he already came in, but he was 28 when he came in. The question I have, and this is a difficult one: what Steeler played the most seasons in Pittsburgh but did not start their NFL career, where they actually were credited with playing a game? So not like James Harrison, who started on practice squads other places, who actually played for another team and then came to the Steelers and played multiple seasons. And I'll even tell you, they played 13 seasons with the Steelers after starting with another team.
Jerome Bettis.
He didn't play 13 seasons with the Steelers.
13 seasons. He played. How many years did he play for Pittsburgh?
That's a great question, Brian.
I can tell you. So, yes. Let me just give you the dates. He started in 96 and he left in 06, but did not play the 06 season. So what, 10 seasons?
Got it. I thought it.
I was thinking it could be James Ferrier, but James Ferrier wasn't around for 13.
Yeah. This player, I'll tell you, because he played. What's that?
Can you give us the era?
You broke up for me, Brian. The era. He played on 2 Super Bowl teams in the 70s, the first two. I'm pretty sure it was two. Might have only been one, but at least one. So he started with the Steelers in 64 and finished in 76.
Ray Mansfield.
That would be correct.
Very good. Nice.
Very good, Brian.
He's on
Davis and Ray Mansfield. Wonderful job tonight. You are you get the trivia award.
Woo! Just like every week. Good, Brian. What's your trivia?
All right.
The super geek.
This is one of those that it sounded better in my head. Now I'm getting worried about it. So, okay, when you look at Steeler drafts over the last 20, 30 years, I'm looking at the fullback position. Now, a lot of these guys come in as running back, but I'm talking about guys that traditionally played fullback for the Steelers. Who was the most productive drafted fullback in the last, let's say, 30 years?
I have a guess, but it's probably wrong. You mean for the Steelers?
Yes, for the Steelers.
I was going to let Jeff guess first.
I have no clue. Frank Summers.
Frank Summers would count. I love that because I looked at Frank Summers. Was one of the guys that I forgot about. Frank the Tank.
Chris Fumatu Mafala.
So no, I'm counting Fu as a running back.
Okay,
because he played more out of that tailback position. So we're getting some Dan Kreider up there.
Was he drafted by the Steelers then?
Dan Kreider was not drafted. He was undrafted out of New Hampshire.
That's what I was going to say. Oh shoot, I should know. The one I'm thinking of, and I can't think of his name because he would have come out. It would have been in the, I would say, whatever you would call it, mid to late 90s out of Penn State.
Absolutely.
I keep wanting to say his name is John Williams.
You're close. His name is John.
I know because John, I can't remember. You know why? Because I would have competed against him in college in track and field, but he graduated right before I started.
My gosh.
What's his name? John
with a W.
Yes. That's the problem.
John Whitman.
John Whitman.
Oh, okay.
The Whitman
I remember him.
Because it was John L. Williams was a different one, right?
Yes, who played for Seattle, who was a Pro Bowler in Seattle.
But yes, I knew he was a Penn State fullback and then came in and played for the Steelers.
Yes.
He was a good discus thrower.
And he was drafted right after Mike Allstott. He was in the same draft. So Allstott out of Purdue, who had a very good.
All right, so I'll have one trivia question, and I'd like to go the more general route. You guys typically know these answers, but there might be someone listening that doesn't know it. So I thought of Javon Hargrave. If Javon Hargrave leaves, he goes to Philadelphia. Obviously, the Keystone State is a large one and encompasses both teams. And a lot of people, and some people might not know, that at one time, the two teams, the Steelers and the Eagles, formed together and created the Steagles. My question is, what year did the Steagles actually exist?
1943.
Very good. 1943. And that was because of the war that was going on. And the NFL players were obviously, some of them were deployed, but 1943. So because of Javon Hargrave going to Philly, I kind of sparked my interest back in the Steagles. And that was only 1 year. And it was, I did some research on it a little bit, read some stories about that. Crazy. Just switching back and forth between Philadelphia and Pittsburgh in terms of home field and just nuts.
Guys, breaking news.
What happened?
Yes, I saw it. I'm just getting ready.
And he
Who's
tweeted
going to do it? Jeff or Brian?
He tweeted it out. Somebody we talked about a couple of weeks ago. I was going to bring him up here. Stefan Wisniewski. There's your guard center. He tweeted out, "I'm coming home," and he's wearing the hat.
Jeff, we can't go through a podcast without breaking news.
All right, very good. Breaking news. Breaking news. What is do they have a contract terms or anything?
So
I'm looking at.
He tweeted this 10 minutes ago.
It does not. They don't have right now the financials from anyone I can find. If anyone can find that in the live chat, that would be greatly appreciated because that'll save us some work.
That's huge, and it's something I wanted to talk about earlier when we were talking about bringing another guy in, and you were talking about the center guard. But that's a really good move.
I hated that move before new CBA because we didn't have any money, but now we have a new CBA. I love that move. And Brian, kudos to you for calling that. That was weeks ago. How many weeks ago did you say that?
2 or 3.
Yeah,
that's where I got in a fight on the live chat with people I actually like.
Yeah, because they say with what money, and that was true, with what money, and then we got a new CBA, and now we're better.
All right, so go ahead.
He's
Brian.
won Super Bowls in the last couple of years too. He won a Super Bowl with the Eagles. He won one last year with the Chiefs. Yeah. So coming in on those 1 year, 2 year deals, he comes in and he has a history of making the Super Bowl recently. 1 week before the colonoscopy. Gosh.
Yeah. So let's be honest. Okay, we're gonna cut this show now. Steelers preview is done. We're gonna pick up with this story in the after party. So stay with us. Dave's gonna be writing. He has to cover the story for the site, and we're gonna get everything together, wrap our heads around it. We'll see you in 5 minutes. If you're listening in audio, the after party will be published at 1 p.m. Eastern time on Fridays. Make sure you check that out on your commute home, or if you're just sitting around, you can check it out then too. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in a few.